I had given drinking up 10 years before I met my husband. There was 10 years of my life that when I put it down, and I never picked it up again. And here I am, I'm a Christian, I'm married to a pastor and a missionary. I'm sitting in the front row of church every Sunday, raising my hands and praising the Lord, and I've got this dirty little secret. It was awful. Awful. I lived with it for 11 years. I was so embarrassed. My drinking wasn't, I got up in the morning and I had to have it, or even that I drank every day. It was triggers. The thing that sent me back to the alcohol were triggers. My husband going to Haiti was a trigger for me. It made me sad. It made me lonely. And when he would call me, he would ask me to do things for him, and they would be very difficult for me. And it was a trigger. There were reasons why I was drinking. I needed relief from my current situation. So I'm in a mess. 11 years go by. And the Academy Awards came on, or the Oscars. I don't know what it was. But my husband was in Haiti, and my very, very close girlfriend came over to watch the show with me. And I hadn't even had a drink that whole week, I guess, and she didn't really drink. But at the very last minute, I went and bought some alcohol. And we watched the award show that night, and I was drinking. And drinking. I woke up the next morning with a hangover. It wasn't anything unusual. It wasn't an intense hangover. It was just a hangover. And my friend hung with me the whole day, and I started feeling sicker. So it turned into something that wasn't a hangover. It's like I felt like my bodily functions stopped working. I just was so ill. And I would tell her, I'm like, man, I am really getting sick. But I went upstairs and I laid in bed, and I started seeing all the times that I ever had a drink. And God was saying to me, Sandy, has any time that you ever had a drink turned out well for you? I mean, I looked at visions from the age of 16 to current, and there was never a time that drinking ever ended well for me. And then he started showing me visions of things to come if I made the commitment to him to stop drinking. Things for the kingdom, things that if I made the commitment to stop drinking that I would see. God has a plan and a purpose for all of our lives. And there are things that we have yet to do. And I want to be part of that plan. So God started showing me it was just a sweet spirit that had entered the room. And I knew Jesus was beside me. I could feel him beside me. But I was shaking. I knew that I was going to have to make the commitment to stop drinking. I knew it. It was time. I think my life depended on it. But I didn't want to make a promise to God, because I know when I make a promise to God, I'm not going to break it. So after a while, my friend had to leave, and I'm all alone with God. And I remembered something. I remembered a vision when I was 11 or 12 years old of my father holding up the Bible, and he held it out to my mom, and he said, I want you to lay your hand on this Bible and say you'll never drink again. And my mom couldn't do it. And eventually my parents got divorced. But, I thought, okay, devil, Grandpa drank, Mom drank, dad drank, I drank. We're going to break this generational curse. All right? I'm done. My mom couldn't make the commitment, but I'm going to. So something rose up in me at that point, and I went to my husband's recliner because I think it's anointed. And I got my Bible. I'm still shaking this whole time, and I put my Bible on my lap. And I didn't put one hand on it. I put both hands on it. And I sat there for a good 20 minutes. And I just said, God, I said, I promise you, God. I promise you. I will never drink again. Oh, I knew as soon as I said it, it was going to be so hard. I knew it, but I knew that it had to be done. So about that time, I didn't even know what day it was. I mean, I didn't know what day it was. I didn't know what time it was. And I looked up at the clock next to me, and I'm like, what is the date today? And I went over to my phone, and I looked. The date, it was my mom's birthday. The date that I said that I would quit drinking. The thing that my mother couldn't do. I did it on my mother's birthday. How amazing is God? How amazing is God? And then, if that's not enough, I get a call from my sister. And she said, Sandee, I just had to call you. I had to call you. And then I had told her what I went through, and she's like, wow. You know, she's like, somebody sent me this quote today, you know, online, and I've kept it all day. I don't know why. I don't know why I held on to it, but I do now. And I said, what is it? Send it to me. And this is what it said. It ran in your family until it ran into you. God says you have been anointed to break the cycle. Generational curses stop with you. I had an addiction for 11 years that I kept in the closet that I knew wasn't right. God wasn't happy with it. You know, I knew that I wasn't going to go any further in my life if I continued in the pattern I was in. And I was so unhappy. I don't live like that anymore. Freedom has come to me. I am pursuing God. He is pursuing me. The very things that I've wanted to do, that I've felt like He's asked for me to do, I'm doing now. But it came from one commitment. Okay? I realize how difficult it is to give up an addiction. But I'm telling you, there is no addiction out there that you cannot lay down with God's help. You cannot do it without God's help. You have to understand that you were born with a purpose and destiny on the inside of you. That while you are stuck, you are wasting time. There is such a beautiful future that has been designed specifically for you. I want you to have that. Listen, during the time that I said God wasn't speaking to me and I was living in that depression, no, I didn't hear God's voice. But there is a purpose for the silence. There is a purpose in the silence. God is always doing something. I have never been more prepared to speak this message than right now. in this day and age, in this day and time. Today, whatever your today is, by the time you watch the video, it might be 5 years old. But this video is anointed and appointed for you. Listen, you can do this. I'm telling you, you can do this. You would not be watching me right now. I would not be speaking to you if it were not so.